World leaders, kings, and queens have all stayed at the Élysée Palace. However, Emmanuel Macron cleared his calendar as soon as he learned that Alex Eala had reached Paris. And the WTA is rushing to find out what he gave her behind closed doors. Tennis players are not invited to private dinners by the French president. Four-star hotels do not receive presidential limousines from him. He doesn't spend 3 hours asking a 20-year-old from Manila about her folks, her dreams, and her trip. However, Emmanuel Macron carried out all of that on the eve of the French Open. The cameras were not invited to the 3-hour supper, but rumors from inside the castle gates have already started to circulate. And what did Macron give Eala? It is referred to as validation by the Filipino diaspora. Alex Eala describes it as the most bizarre night of her life, while the WTA calls it unprecedented. May 23, 2026, Paris, France, 11:47 p.m. Alex Eala was unaware of the occupants of the black limousine that arrived at the Hotel de Crillon. I'll set the scenario for you. The Roland-Garros grounds were already humming with the intensity of qualifiers, practice sessions, and the hushed expectation of the season's second Grand Slam, with the French Open just hours away and the main tournament scheduled to start on May 24th. With thousands of Filipino supporters at the airport, flags fluttering and chants resounding, Alex Eala was greeted like a hero upon her arrival in Paris. She visited with the president of the French Tennis Federation, practiced on Court 7, and received a medal. Even before the competition had begun, she already seemed to have won. However, she was worn out. The lengthy flight from Mallorca, her media responsibilities, the burden of 40,000 admirers, and the aspirations of a country had all weighed heavily on her. Her phone buzzed just as she was ready to go to bed after placing an order for room service and taking a nice shower. Yom Wachiko, her agent, sent the message. Avoid sleeping. Someone is on their way to visit you. Alex scowled. It was getting close to midnight. At this hour, who could possibly be visiting her? She brushed her hair, put on a jumper, and bided her time. Her phone buzzed once more 15 minutes later. Come downstairs by yourself. The Hotel de Crillon's lobby was quiet at this hour. The security guard held the door. The concierge nodded as she went past, and a black limousine with diplomatic plates, tinted windows, and the distinctive French Republic seal was parked at the curb. From the inside, the door opened. The president is waiting, Miss Eala, so please enter. At midnight, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, was waiting for her at the Élysée Palace. Eala's heart stopped beating. She turned to face the lights in her mother's room, the hotel, and the expanse of Paris in front of her. She remembered the 40,000 people who had come from all around the world to see her perform, the flags and the chants. The Eala effect, the movement she had never requested yet was unable to avoid, came to mind. Alex Eala, a 20-year-old Manila sensation who had never won a match at Roland-Garros, was transported through the streets of Paris to the most famous address in France as soon as she got into the limousine. The door closed, and the engine hummed. She was unaware that the discussion she was going to have would alter everything. For then 300 years, the Élysée Palace has welcomed kings, queens, and world leaders. However, on this particular evening, the gate guards were only anticipating one visitor, a 20-year-old tennis player from Manila. Allow me to take you inside as soon as the limousine drove through the wrought iron gates, because Alex Eala's next experience was a different kind of homecoming rather than a political gathering. The French flags fluttered in the night breeze as the Élysée was illuminated in gentle gold. There was an almost reverent silence in place of the customary commotion of advisors and media in the courtyard. A uniformed worker opened the door as the limousine came to a halt at the base of the grand staircase. Hello, Miss Eala. With her heels clicking on the cobblestones, Eala emerged. She had packed for tennis, but not for a state supper. At the door, a senior assistant welcomed her. The president, who has been anticipating this all evening, is waiting in the Salon de Fête. Heads of state meet for formal banquets at the Salon de Fêtes. Frescoed ceilings, large tables with gold-rimmed china, and crystal chandeliers. It was intended to terrify, impress, and serve as a reminder of the French Republic's authority and stature. However, Eala discovered just one table when she entered. set for two, small and cozy. Emmanuel Macron was at its head, standing up to welcome her. "Thank you for coming, Alex," he said, reaching across the room. "I am aware of the late hour. I couldn't let you start this tournament without telling you something, even though I know you have a match tomorrow." With her thoughts still racing, Eala shook his hand. "I'm honored that she succeeded, Mr. President." Macron answered, "The honor is mine. Please take a seat." The vast space surrounded them in quiet as they took seats opposite one another. A server materialized, setting cutlery and pouring water before vanishing as fast as he had emerged. Macron looked at Eala for a long time. "Not only did I watch your tennis matches in Rome, but I also witnessed how much your people adore you. The tears, the chants, the flags. I have decades of experience in politics. I've witnessed leaders emerge and movements grow, but I've never witnessed something like what you've produced." His eyes met hers as he hesitated. They refer to it as the Eala effect. However, France wishes to participate in this revolution, which is not an impact. Eala gasped for air. "Mr. President, what do you mean?" Macron reclined on his seat. "In other words, I'm inviting you to symbolize something greater than tennis, not just a dinner. I'm asking you to serve as an ambassador, not for France, but for the Filipino community in France and the OFWs who have made sacrifices for their families, established lives here, and never felt appreciated." He took out a little folder from the pocket of his jacket. "This is a proposal for a French government-funded cultural exchange program between France and the Philippines. It will give young Filipino athletes scholarships so they can train in France, attend our academies, and follow in your footsteps in Spain." The packet was slid across the table by him. "It will also bear your name." Eala's hand shot to her lips. According to Macron, the Alex Eala Scholarship will leave a lasting impact. The slim, stylish folder with the French Republic's mark rested on the table between them. With her hand still in her lips, Alex Eala gazed at it, her thoughts whirling. "Allow me to take you inside the moment that will determine Ayala's future as well as the future of Filipino athletes competing in Europe." Emmanuel Macron observed her assimilating the data. With his hands folded on the table and a patient smile, he waited without hurrying or pushing. Finally, Eala said, "Mr. President, I don't know what to say," her voice hardly audible above a whisper. This exceeds my expectations," Macron said. "You don't have to say anything. Not this evening. It's an offer. It will remain there following the US Open, the French Open, and the grass season. There is no pressure or timeline. This negotiation is not political in nature. It's an invitation." What is an invitation to? To represent not only Filipino talent, but also what occurs when sport transcends competition, when one athlete becomes a movement, and when a Manila-born 20-year-old tells the world that winning is about connection rather than medals. Eala glanced at her hands. They were shaking. "This is not what I asked for. I didn't ask to be a symbol. All I wanted to do was play tennis." According to Macron, the finest ones never do. Being a symbol was not anything Nelson Mandela requested. Mother Teresa did not request to be a saint. "Alex, you have been selected by the world. The question is whether you will take on the associated responsibilities, not whether you are prepared." His voice softened as he hesitated. "I'm not asking you to run for office, support my party, or embrace my policies. I'm pleading with you to remain true to yourself, to continue fighting, to continue flying that flag, and to continue giving your people a sense of visibility." He pointed to the folder. "Whether you accept this invitation or not, the scholarship program will continue. Although the French government is dedicated to helping the Filipino community, it would be significant to have your name and approval on it. It would convey to all young Filipino athletes that France has faith in them and that their aspirations are achievable." Ayala's eyes sparkled. "I must consider it. Take as much time as you need, of course. Let's eat now. I've kept you for much too long, and you have a tennis match tomorrow." The supper that followed was more casual and intimate. Macron inquired about her family and her trip from Manila to Mallorca to Paris. When she talked about her early days at the Rafa Nadal Academy, speaking very little Spanish and having to fend for herself for the first time, he laughed. "I wasn't all that different. I moved from Amiens to Paris when I was younger. I had nothing and no one, but I thought that if I put in enough effort, I could change things. That's what you believe as well. Don't ever lose it. At 2 in the morning, the supper was over. With his security team keeping a polite distance, Macron personally escorted her to the limousine. Alex, Bonchance, you've already prevailed. Keep it in mind. The limousine withdrew from the palace of Élysée. With the folders still tightly gripped in her hands, Ayala watched the gold-lit windows vanish in the side mirror.